One, Italy, France, and Germany. The biggest issue is immigration. But will it be in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania? Two, time to take my medicine. But I am a big man. I am the bigger man. So I'm ready. I'll pay the piper. To young establishment James, to Tyrus, to you, to Boston. And three, OpenAI looks to dominate Apple, but not if Elon Musk has a say. The future of AI. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, and always on demand, wherever you get your audio entertainment. Just hit subscribe at Apple or Spotify, and you can listen to the Will Cain Show on your commute or on your treadmill. If you're sitting around at lunch, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 11 o'clock Central Time, or breakfast, 9 o'clock Pacific Time, just head on over to YouTube and hit subscribe, and you can join us every day here on the Will Cain Show. And if you ever miss, you can catch past episodes or jump into the comment section and become a part of the Will Cain Show. I'm a big man. I'm probably the biggest man. I mean, that's probably what they say. You know, that thing about Will is he's a big man. So I'm willing to admit today. All right. So just go ahead. Enter the chat, young establishment James. Enter the chat, 2-a-days, and if you want, even tinfoil Pat. I'm willing to be the bigger, probably the biggest man.
It was fun.
The Boston Celtics
It was fun.
were better. Way, way better than the Dallas Mavericks. And the Dallas Mavericks have now been consigned to the dustbin of history. You know, 2023,
What
24
is that?
Dallas Mavericks.
What is that?
Dallas Mavericks NBA Finals. This isn't even, hey, you're a champion. I've got a towel that you wave.
It's like
It's
a second place trophy. It looks like, I think, you know. That's
It is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it
Yeah.
is. And I'm going to hang it. I'm going to hang my second place trophy right here in the Will Cain Show studios.
I think
and that will be one of the most forgotten second place trophies probably in history. Who did the Celtics beat in their second championship? But it will only be a few of us like me that remember Dallas Mavericks.
There's some things in the studio here of Boston Celtics stuff. So
Got another thing for you if you want to
just to rub it in.
wager from the Tyrus T-shirt.
Yeah. For the listener,
You got me a Tyrus T-shirt?
From back in
for the
08.
listeners who's got a Celtics jersey. Who's that?
Like a little Kevin Garnett. And
Who's number
possible NBA Finals.
Okay. I think
Fresh
on
and clean,
Saturday or Sunday,
I'll come in early
I'm supposed to wear-
get it over to you.
I think on Saturday or Sunday I'm supposed to wear an I Love Tyrus shirt to pay off my debt here between the Mavs and the Celtics. I don't know if that jersey will work, but leave it around. Maybe that'll work because I don't know if I have time to get to a screen printer to print up
I'll leave
I
it in
Love
your
Tyrus.
office.
But there'll be some debt to pay. So watch Fox and Friends Weekend. And I will pay more debt here a little bit later here on the Will Cain Show as it's time to pay the piper. Your 2024 NBA Finals champion, not, sadly, the Dallas Mavericks, the Boston Celtics. But first, the issue that seems to drive elections from Europe to America. It certainly played a role in Italy, in France, in Germany, but will it play a decisive role in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Montana? Will it play a decisive role in America? Let's get into that with story number one. He is a senator from Oklahoma, the other state, along with Oregon that starts with an O. But it is one that is near, if not dear, to my heart. Oklahoma, just over the Red River border. And it is Senator Markwayne Mullin here on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Senator?
Yeah, so you get to eat crow now. We ate crow, a little bit before to your team. So I really don't have anything to say, not to mention my family is vertically challenged. So we wrestle. We don't play basketball. But I was really wanting to see the Mavs win just because if you're going to beat us, at least go all the way and finish it out and not get beat by Larry Bird's team. So whatever. I think that's worse, though. I'll just leave it setting there.
The us you're referring to, The us you're referring to being the Oklahoma City Thunder. That is always an interesting thing. Like after you have been vanquished, do you root for the person that beat you because it kind of makes you look better? At least we lost to the champion, or do you just keep hatred?
I go back to my
hatred in your heart.
days. Yeah, I go back to my wrestling days and fighting days. If someone beat me, I wanted them to be the best. I don't want, because then I'm not the second best. I'm the third best or maybe the fourth best. So I want the guy who beats me in a wrestling tournament to go all the way. So the same thing here. I was rooting for the Mavs to go all the way, but you got beat by the green team. So I really do think that's worse. I mean, because you got to wear that green. I mean, what is sexy about that green, jersey you got to wear? I want a picture of that, Will. And by the way, every time we talk about you, we definitely talk about you being the big man. I mean, that's definitely how we describe you around here.
That's right. That's the goal. If you say it over and over and simplify it, it becomes reality. I've learned my lesson of history. I'm a big man. I'm the biggest man. By the way, you know what's sexy about that Celtics jersey? The only thing sexy about any basketball jersey is that it's more sexy than a singlet. I can think of nothing worse than the wrestling outfit.
If you got a body like mine, we make the singlet look good, man. You know that. It leaves nothing for imagination, right? People know exactly what they're getting. That's why my wife fell in love with me in high school. I mean, she knew exactly what she was getting.
Yeah, it's a singlet with some thin crust soled high tops. That's the best look there is, in sports. By the way, before we move on to news, now again, it's interesting, you being from Oklahoma and you being into wrestling. You haven't grown up just probably 100 miles south of you, but on the right side of the Red River. Wrestling back in our age group, your my age group, wasn't really a thing. They might have had it like at fancy private schools in Dallas, where I now send my kids to school. But they didn't have them like in Sherman, Texas, wrestling. And I saw a map. It's kind of interesting. It said the South, not the South, and kind of the South. It was on Instagram. And Oklahoma was grouped in with like Kentucky and West Virginia in kind of the South. If we're being real, like Texas is just kind of the South. But Oklahoma wrestling culture kind of illustrates you've got a healthy dose of Midwest to your culture. You're kind of Southern, you're kind of Western, and you're a little bit Midwest. Because when I think of wrestling, I think Nebraska, maybe the Dakotas, but into the Midwest, like Ohio, and I guess like Illinois. I just think of Rust Belt, Midwest, and dipping down and over into Nebraska and maybe a little of Oklahoma.
Well, one of the best teams out there right now is Pennsylvania. Penn State is like they're Penn State and everybody else, and Oklahoma State is right there. Which I got two boys that wrestle for Oklahoma State, one boy that wrestles for the University of Oklahoma. But one of the best high schools in the state or in the country consecutively over and over again is Allen, Texas. They have one of the best wrestling programs over and over and over again. Now they're kind of low right now, but they'll come back. And it's interesting because there is no universities in Texas that have wrestling either. So we recruit a lot of those guys. In fact, I've got a kid that's interning for me right now that he wrestles at Oklahoma University, and he graduated from Allen, Texas.
That is interesting. It's the geographic scrambling of sports is interesting. I can tell you lacrosse is getting big in Texas, and that's traditionally like a, Northeast and Maryland sport. But It's kind of interesting to see these sports. I hate to lose our regional differences. I actually like it. Before you know it, they're going to be playing water polo in Mississippi. I want you brought up Pennsylvania. It makes for a perfect transition. We talked about this last week, Cinder, here on the Will Cain Show, as European Union governments in France and Germany elected governments representation in the European Union further to the right. It's presumed that the major guiding issue is migration, is illegal migration, is refugee migration, and the question is how big a role is that going to play in American politics? It played a massive role in 2016, probably the singular biggest role for the election of Donald Trump in 2016. The question is, how is it going to affect these, not just presidential elections in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, but also the Senate races in those states? Do you think that Europe is serving as sort of a canary in the coal mine for what could just soon happen in America?
I think you absolutely are going to see that, and you see it also the way that the campaigns are shifting. Right, you see that President Trump is bringing in a lot of Hispanic votes, which isn't just immigrant, but however that the Hispanic vote is the fastest growing population in the United States. You can't find a construction site here anywhere in the country right now that you're not having Hispanics that are not just working there, but they're the foremans, and a lot of times now they're becoming the lead contractors on the site. You see that Trump is surging with that because the family traditional values, the strong religious background, just the traditional values that the Hispanic population brings in. The Republican Party is really the party that's embracing that, and the Democrat Party is going away from it. But yet you're seeing actions taken by President Trump. I mean, just today he did an amnesty executive order, which is giving spouses of legal citizens here, or maybe not even citizens, maybe just NPRs, or Biden. What did I say? Obama? Trump. Sorry.
You said Trump, but yeah, Biden's executive order. Yeah.
Thanks for the catch. That's why you're the big man, because you catch a little mistakes. So you see Biden that did the executive order today that gave illegal spouses amnesty to if they were married to illegal residents, and that residents could be in illegal permanent residence or a citizen. That's to try to block and try to get some of that Hispanic vote back. And so you've seen what's happened in Europe. Europe politics are not much different than us. And so I think without a question, I will bet you start seeing a lot of the debate will move towards that. I bet you'll probably see commercials that are being ran in Spanish. I would be willing to say that this could play a big role in a lot of the surrogates that's speaking for both candidates too, be it President Trump or President Biden at this point.
Real quick, you bring up debate, and we have our first debate next week. I think for a lot of us, we're sitting here wondering, how does Biden, do this? There are going to be some rules put in place that make it easier for Biden to do this. But how does he do this when we see this trip he took in Europe, just physically, mentally, age-wise? How does he do this? Do you think, Senator, that what do you think the probability is that Joe Biden is the nominee for president from the Democrats? And I ask you that because I'm curious if your answer is 100% probability, or is there still some lurking possibility out there that it's somebody besides Biden?
All right, Will, you're going to take me down this flat Earth conspiracy theory thing, right? So just hold with me a second. I think it's 50-50. And the reason why I say 50-50 really? Is I'll go back. I got to set just a little bit of it. I go back to where they did the investigation of his classified documents that he kept. You have the DOJ that's investigating it. The FBI made the lead. They sent out a report. The report starts talking really heavy about his cognitive behavior, which that had nothing to do with him having classified documentations or not. And then why would they release the cognitive behavior? Because that cognitive behavior could have been classified. The commander in chief, the president of the United States, the most powerful position in the world. You're letting all of our adversaries know that there's a cognitive health issue here. So that could have been classified. They could have redacted that from the public sector. So why'd they put that out there? I still am confused by that. And then you go back and you see that they've scheduled this debate, which is before any of the conventions. It's odd. I don't know if that's ever happened, that you have a presidential debate before either convention takes place. Will, you might have some people there that can research that. As far as I know, that's never happened in my lifetime. And so I would think they're still trying to see is if Biden can get a bump coming out of this, because he's taken on so much water. You're seeing reports come out that he's behind in all these battleground states. You see Trump taking the fight straight to them. I mean, Trump is in San Francisco. Why? Bush didn't even go to San Francisco. So you're seeing a guy that walks into San Francisco and people are welcoming him and they're clapping for him and they're putting on a parade for him, and he has a huge turnout. I mean, that's unusual, right? Same thing happened in Detroit, same thing happened in Las Vegas, and same thing happened when he was in New York. So I believe that the debate is to say, can we stop the bleed and can we get a bump? Now, go back, State of the Union, people had very low expectations from him. Now, I had a set in the State of the Union. It wasn't a pleasant setting, but honestly, he didn't do bad. He was witty. He shot back at some comments that was in the crowd. He stayed on point. I'm not saying I liked what he had to say, but he definitely maneuvered like someone that was different than what you see when he's at the G7 summit, or when you see him putting his forehead to the Pope. I don't get that one, but his behavior wasn't the same what we was expecting. I would expect they're going to want him to perform well, and if he doesn't, then I'm curious of what they're going to do, because there's rumors that they got to nominate him before the Democrat convention because of the issue. I believe it's Ohio. I forget what state it is, but it's one of the states that on the eastern side of the country that has an issue with the convention is a week after they got to have something to do with the ballot. I'm speaking out of term here because I don't know the whole issue there, but I'm told that they may have to have the nomination beforehand. So if they have the nomination beforehand, they can't go to the convention and release the delegates based on the health of the president of the United States. And if they release the delegates, and this is why I say 50-50, if you actually are in the convention and you release the delegates, you don't know what you're going to get, because most delegates are the activists in the party. So they're going to lean in the Republican side more to the right, and in the Democrat side, they're going to lean more to the left, and the left isn't going to help them. They nominate somebody like Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom, or Buttigieg, or even Harris. That doesn't help them with the election. They actually have worse polling numbers than Biden does. So then they're going to have someone that's perceived, if there's any, if that even happens in the Democrat Party anymore, that's perceived more moderate. And I don't know if they can actually do that at the convention, but I do believe that they're looking for an alternative. I just don't know if they can get it done.
So the scenario that you just described as a 50-50 proposition is to release the delegates at the convention after, in this scenario, we're playing out the gamesmanship here, a poor debate performance by Joe Biden. The numbers continue to bleed. Once those delegates are released, though, your point is you have activists on the floor at the convention, and they're going to have the menu of options you just laid out for us, all of which you tell me are further to the left and poll worse than Joe Biden. But that leaves me one more sort of on this strategy, wondering, you don't move from A unless you understand what will be B. And this mystery that you described, I think, is accurate. I don't think they know where they would go. And without answering what is B, you can't really leave behind A.
I think they do. I think they know where they want to go. I just don't know if they can get there. And who I think that is, I think it's Hakeem Jeffries. If you think about Hakeem Jeffries being the leader of the House right now for the minority, Hakeem, and I'll just go back to this again, Will, I'm chasing rabbits here with you, but why did Hakeem give Kevin McCarthy the gavel? That wasn't his gavel. He never had the gavel. That gavel technically belonged to Nancy Pelosi. And why, when they handed it to him, he did a 15-minute campaign speech. And then since he's been leader, how many pictures have you seen him with President Biden? None. He's not ever at the White House. He's not meeting with President Biden. He's taken several positions away from the White House, which I served with Hakeem. That's not natural for Hakeem. Hakeem he's not moderate. He's actually very liberal, but he's likable. And right. you can be in a room with him and you can actually like the guy. Like, I got along with him. He's actually pretty funny, but he's not a conservative. He's not moderate at all. But he's taken the position completely opposite on the woke movement, on the anti-Israel movement, the pro-Palestine movement. He's taken completely different positions from the White House on that. And then he saved Speaker Johnson's bacon, which I would say if he didn't step in on that, there would have been, I would say we probably still wouldn't have a speaker. There's a good chance we still wouldn't have the speaker. And so then when you start breaking down the legislation that he's partnered with, it's showing himself as a moderate. Pelosi would never have worked with us, and Hakeem was no different. Hakeem wouldn't have worked with us. He never worked with us a single time when he wasn't in leadership. So I think they're trying to paint him as somebody that they can bring in, and he's the Obama quest type individual that he's kind of easy on the eyes. He's likable. You want to sit down and have a drink with the guy, and he's personable, even more personable than I would say that Obama was. So I believe that's probably where they would like to go. I just don't think they can get there.
Wow. What and I understand that you took the time to walk down the road of your flat earth theory, but what a series of events, informed speculation, I would say, understanding the machinations behind the scenes and the personalities of these people, of a 50-50 proposition of moving on from Joe Biden and potentially trying to get to Hakeem Jeffries. Wow. Those are things I'm not sure many people are considering at this point, Senator.
Well, keep in mind, I'm just a country boy from Westville, Oklahoma. That's, I don't know what I know, right? I mean, I grew up in a town called Westville because it's farthest east in Oklahoma. How do you get the name Westville? So that'll tell you how much I know. But I'm just reading the tea leaves, if you would say.
Well, okay, I want to go back to this idea of immigration for just a minute then. Well, actually, before I go back to immigration, I have one more question for you on this Joe Biden issue. You talked about it. Like, you were a little bit taken aback by how well he did at the State of the Union, and people have warned against these low expectations for him going into the debate. But then you see these images of him, like you said, putting his head against the Pope and wandering around, led by Obama at a Democratic fundraiser in California. So what do you think's going on there? Like, do you think, and let's consider all the options. Do you think he is being, as what would be said by MSNBC or Karine Jean-Pierre, unfairly edited out of context by the right and having these moments, played on loop by people like me at Fox? Is it that option? Is it that he's getting up for the big moments, and for now, let's say by any means possible? People always leap to performance-enhancing drugs, but it doesn't have to be performance-enhancing drugs of some kind. It could be, hey, President Biden got a full night's sleep last night, so he's really clicking on all cylinders, and whatever a full night's sleep means. It could mean 14 hours, right? And, which isn't ideal that a president needs 14 hours on a day-in, day-out basis to operate at his full capacity. But how do you explain the seeming variance in his performance?
Well, I don't think he can fake that all the time. I believe what they did for the State of the Union is they got him a tremendous amount of rest. They probably gave him a lot of B12 and a lot of vitamin D, and he was well rehearsed, but yet he was still quick on his feet. So I think they put him in a position that he was comfortable in. I believe if you look at his health, I mean, you saw him, at Normandy, where he was walking down and it looked like he was dragging his right side. From someone that's had strokes in my family, you recognize that pretty quick. From someone that also has Alzheimer's in your family, you recognize the look in his eyes. And anybody that's dealt with that understands that. You see him being lost. And as my wife said, it's her position. I've been married to the lady for 27 years because once again, she found me sexy in my wrestling singlet. She I had to throw that one out, Will. You had to get that one. So, but she said, that's my job, right? If you're being an embarrassment, that's my job. But I'll go back to meaning that it's time to come home. She said, I'd grab you by the arm and say, honey, it's time to come home. So Jill should be doing that. But I'll go back to some of my Democrat colleagues have said is that the Bidens are, and these are friends of mine, very close friends of mine, who are not, they're publicly supportive of Biden, privately they're not, is that the Biden family is a very selfish family and that he's willing to stay there and bring the whole house down if they have to, because he's not wanting to go anywhere. You can't explain his behavior other than there's some magical drugs out there that do help people, but you can't say that he doesn't have cognitive issues. I mean, the FBI even said that, which takes me back to the fact that they gave them a medical reason to say if he's behind enough come the convention to be able to pull him for medical purposes.
I'm not kissing your butt here, but you're pretty good at connecting logical dots from, which is the whole point of like human persuasion. But yeah, from a special prosecutor to the FBI acknowledging that he has a cognitive disorder or cognitive impairment of some kind, you can't really run out on TV and go, it's actually Trump who's slipping. You're just defying every logical step. And you're interestingly taking it the next step. But why do we even know that information? Does it feed into this idea of whether or not Biden will be the nominee? By the way, don't let a guy that wore a Speedo for most of his life and then when he got to college, a little cap with ear protection, make fun of your singlet. Although I would argue it is sexier than a singlet. It's still.
I don't know. You King guys Kong are in cold water. I'm not saying that's too sexy.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, back to immigration. I disagree with a little bit of the direction you took immigration. I think it's interesting you pointed out that your analysis on when I asked you about the impact of immigration was the courting of the Latino vote. But, I'm going to set aside the ethnic or racial factions in the voting process for a moment. The issue itself, I think, plays in whether or not you're Latino or not in America, whether or not you're African-American or whether or not you're white. And that is that most polls, and this shocks everybody somehow that's on CNN, show that 60% of Americans support President Trump's idea of deporting illegal immigrants. I think you could then ask the logical question, will they stomach seeing it on their TV? But yeah, they support it in concept. I think that illegal immigration, and when you combine it with the national security threat that we've seen, 6 ISIS individuals last week, affiliated ISIS individuals who crossed the southern border were apprehended, a guy who just murdered a lady and crossed illegally 4 times, is part of this whole thing. I just wonder if this is not an issue that decides elections. And I'm also wondering if it can, in its current state, or... there was a presidential analysis center that said and this would reject your and my theory they might replace Joe Biden. The guy that's gotten every election right since 1984 said stability enables the incumbent. That's why he says it'd be so stupid to replace Biden. But unless something dramatic happens, Biden is the favorite, is the analysis. And that dramatic thing could be a war, it could be the economy, or it could be a terrorist attack. And I just wonder if illegal immigration is enough to swing an election without it being part of some bigger surprise, like the terrorist attack that it's inevitably enabling somewhere in our future.
Right. So let's break down the stability part of it. The stability is truly why incumbents win 75 to 80% of the time. That's true. But the reason why the stability is because everything in their world's going okay. No one can sit around and say that that's going okay right now, right? We have the highest credit card debt than we've had and ever recorded. You have the average American spending over $11,000 per month per year right now to just maintain the lifestyle they had before, which is why you had the credit card debt going up. So people aren't adjusting their lifestyle; they're looking for a change. They're hoping the reason why they haven't adjusted their lifestyle is because they're thinking things are going to get better. You can't sit there and look and say that it's going to get better underneath Biden. So things change. And then if you have a terrorist attack underneath Bush 43, you saw it jump, right? Because he wasn't blamed for that. There's no way we could have a terrorist attack today that wouldn't be blamed on Biden. It just can't happen. It's because everybody will tell you it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something like this takes place. So then you go back and you start looking at immigration. Why is Trump doing so well on immigration at 60%? Because legal immigration, those that came here legally, they left a place that looks similar to what we're having happen right now inside the United States. They wanted a brighter future. They didn't want the legal immigration. They didn't want the crime in their streets. They left a third world country. What separates a third world country from a first world country? It's the lawlessness. The lawlessness that no one respects the rule of law in a third world country. No, that's why when you're driving or when you're going down the streets or when something's happened, you always got to be extremely cautious. In the United States, unless you're in the wrong neighborhood, you could feel relatively safe no matter who you were or what you look like. And so those that are legally here to able to vote, they're wanting to have stability back in the United States, with the exception of one ethnic group, and that's this activist wing from the Middle East from the Democrat Party. They want to fundamentally change the United States. They want to change it, and the way you change it to what they're wanting to change it to is from disorder, so something can come back and replace it. And that's just factual. That's not an argument. You can't argue with that. That's just the facts of the nature. And so all the other ethnic groups are saying, hey, we don't like the direction the Democrat Party has taken us. That's why they're moving towards Trump. And Trump speaks to them. He has this persona of being a tough guy, a guy that they feel like can be trusted because they're attacking him. So if the government's attacking them and he's standing up to the bully government, then that must be a guy that we want to be part of.
All right, last thing I want to ask you about, and I teased it several times. I did mention like Michigan and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Montana, and I didn't just mention them in how they play for Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Winning the Senate, where you sit, is a very important part of this picture. Republicans, and I'm just looking at the Real Clear Politics averages, they have 47 safe states for Republicans. This is a defensive election cycle for Democrats, only 40 safe for the Democrats. And so the states that I feel like everybody's pointing to, and you can tell me, I know you're very active in this, Senator, it's not just your traditional battleground states like Pennsylvania or Ohio or Michigan or Wisconsin, but also Montana, where Tim Sheehy, former Navy SEAL, is running as well. You need 4, according to this chart, right, to get the majority in the Senate. Where do you think those are most likely to come from, those 4?
So to get 52, we need two to get to 50, 53 to get to 51. So you have West Virginia locked. Governor Justice, that's there. I would be your second win is Tim Sheehy in Montana. Donald Trump's up by 22 points up there. Tim Sheehy is now even with Tester. There is no way, and actually some polls have him ahead of Tester by 2. In fact, Democrats have actually moved that to a more of a red than a purple state. And it's very hard for Tester to come over 22 points. I mean, that's very, very difficult. And he's never been on the ballot with Trump, so he's not been tested there. So I believe that puts us at a 50-50. And then number 3, you could put either Governor Hogan in Maryland, who is still up by 10 points. He was taking on some water there for a little bit. He dropped from 16 to 10. Yeah, that's absolutely stopped now. He's stabilized. He's still holding at 10%. And then you have Bernie Moreno in Ohio. That is just killing it. And now, mind you, Trump's also up by 2 points. So 17 points in Ohio. Bernie Moreno is now level with Sherrod Brown. So they're also level at this point, which isn't a good point for an incumbent. So I feel like right there between those 4, we're at 51 or 52 really easy. And then you haven't talked about what's happened with Mike Turner in Michigan or Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. You haven't talked about New Mexico. What is her name? Neely D'Amici. Neely D'Amici. Her father was a senator from there for a long time. Very popular guy, Pete D'Amici. And so, and that's before you get into Sam Brown, who I'm going to be with in Oklahoma and on Thursday in Nevada, and he's doing remarkably well. I mean, this guy is just, if you haven't had him on, Will, you should have him on. He's just talking about a war hero.
Oh yeah,
him and Tim Sheehy both are war heroes, but Sam Brown is just.
I know
awesome.
who you're talking about. Yeah, he's got the burn.
Yeah, he got burned over 80%
yeah.
of his body in Afghanistan. Met his wife in San Antonio at the burn center, and she's just no nonsense. Don't give me excuse, show me results, but I still love you type personality. And you're scared of her, but you don't want to disappoint her. That's a power couple. You have Carrie Lake, who I think has probably got the most difficult road out of everybody I literally named there. I think she has the most difficult road in Arizona, and the reason why I say that is because the last person to get over 50% in Arizona as a Republican was John McCain, and he did that on his second to last election. So his last election, he only got 49%. That's where that third party candidate plays a big role in this. And I believe if Kyrsten Sinema would have stayed there, Carrie Lake would have had an easy road there. I think Carrie Lake can get 45% all day. I think her hard number is 48%. Now, what plays a role in Arizona is the border. That is becoming a bigger issue every day in let's say Phoenix, where that's a strong Republican held area. And then you go to Scottsdale too, which is a strong Republican held area. That those 2 areas are getting more and more concerned about the border and the immigration issue. That could be a pivotal role, and you'll see how that plays out as a top of the ticket. So if Donald Trump wins Arizona, Carrie Lake wins Arizona. So that's back to that issue. That's a quick breakdown of them. I could dive deep, but I've been to these states. I've campaigned with these individuals. I've had them in New York. I've had them in Oklahoma or in DC doing events for them, and I'll be on the road going to all these states too come October.
Senator, I've always been attracted to the frontier. Like, I like books about the frontier. I like TV shows about the frontier. I like to be on the edge of things, like the perception that on the other side of whatever this edge is, it's wild, Like, I like the ocean. I like the beach because it's like an endless possibility of adventure right there on the ocean. Well, my dream property is right on the Red River. I want to be right on the south side of the Red River, looking out into the wild frontier that is Oklahoma. That untamed land that one day I may go conquer. I may just decide to take my horse across the shallow Red River and go up there and plant a flag for Texas. But until then, I feel good that it's in your hands, in Washington.
I would caution that.
It's still Indian territory.
You don't do very good on football, so I'm just saying.
I feel good about the future, though. That's the point in football and in conquering Oklahoma. I grew up, by the way, where the bathroom stalls at the bar had graffiti that said the Border Patrol's on the wrong border. So. And once you get off this call, I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain to my producers exactly what Eastern Oklahoma is like. And as soon as you're gone, though, as soon as you and your singlet ride off into the sunset here and can't wrestle me and cause any damage. Senator Markwayne Mullin, great to have you on the show. Really fit into this vibe exactly perfectly. Serious but fun. Thank you so much, Senator.
Appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, there goes Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma. You guys, by the way, two-a-days and young establishment, you don't know about Eastern Oklahoma. If there was one place that my dad said, I don't want you to go to, don't late night, don't drive over there, don't go over there. It's
what? Yeah, what is that?
I mean, it's wild. It's history, and it always has been, man. It's like, did you guys ever see the show? And I think the last time Senator Mullin was on our show, he talked about it, about
Justified?
The Bass Reeves, the federal marshal out of Fort Smith, Arkansas, black U.S. Marshal. And his job was to go into Indian territory, because this was the last lawless land in America, Eastern Oklahoma, where it just, and he kind of just ran the corner from where Markwayne Mullin is from down to where I'm from, Grayson County, Texas. And I don't know, man. It's just, and to this day, it's like, I don't know. If you wanted to have your best chance of scoring crystal meth, it's probably in Eastern Oklahoma.
Noted.
Wow, we're just getting the lines are ringing up, lighting up from Oklahoma over here.
No, I love and hate Oklahoma like a cousin. Just my cousin that you don't take to the fancy party. And no, I love Oklahoma. I do, and that's why I tell the truth about Oklahoma. All right, coming up, time for the truth. Time for my medicine. Because on this side of the Red River, the Dallas Mavericks lost to the boys up in Boston. That's next on The Will Cain Show.
Kudlow on Fox Business is now on the go for podcast fans. Download the Kudlow Show podcast every weekday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com. Kudlow covers the latest headlines and business trends with an emphasis on the financial impact facing households and businesses across the country. Listen to interviews with key business newsmakers. The Kudlow podcast will be available on the go after the show every weekday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
This is an election year unlike any other.
That's why you need America's #1 most watched news source, Fox News. Stay with us.
All the way to election night.
The candidates
Are ready.
I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people.
We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before.
Americans across the country are ready.
And so are we.
This is Democracy 24.
Your freedom, your vote.
Fox News.
America is watching.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network. Listen to the all-new Bret Baier podcast featuring Common Ground, talking to lawmakers weekly from opposite sides of the political spectrum about the issues of the day and how Americans can find common ground in a politicized world.
That's just not happening on Capitol Hill. It takes leadership, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Along with all your Bret Baier favorites like the campaign, the candidates, the all-star panel, and much more. Available now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Time to take the medicine. Time to pay the piper. Time to let go of the little Dallas Mavericks. It's the Will Cain Show. Streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, and always on demand. Hit subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. All right, I've already been, the big man. I don't know that I've taken my medicine, but I've showed my integrity this morning by telling young establishment James, hey, the Celtics, the better team. Way better than the Mavericks. So much so that I don't even know we're going to remember who the Celtics beat. in the finals in 2024. My only consolation, by the way, is he wearing a championship Celtics hat already on the Will Cain Show?
No, it's just a generic hat. It's old.
That would be.
Why is it a hat day? Why is it a hat day?
He got that at
Young
TD.
Canes?
That's why he said.
It's they won a championship. You could put on a Celtics hat. What's the criticism here?
Well, there's a lot of criticism. I mean,
Can't
you're
wear
a
a hat.
thematic dresser, for one. You know, Doug Burgum comes in, you throw on a blazer, the Celtics win, you throw on a hat. And I
Both
think it's an
seem
insult to
perfectly
Senator
reasonable.
Mullen. I think it's an insult to Senator Mullen. For one, no blue blazer today for the senator
I
from
agree.
Oklahoma, Eastern Oklahoma.
I agree.
He seems more of a rough and tumble, button-down kind of guy.
Then Doug Burgum from North Dakota, where you put on your blue blazer.
Well, we got.
Here is-
I see some distraction here.
We got a caller on the line.
Get back on topic.
Yeah.
What? The
Hi, is
topic
this
of
the
the
Will
Mavericks
Cain
versus
Show?
the Celtics? Here we are. It's Tyrus. He's ready.
Hey!
He's ready to take his lap.
How are you? How are you holding up?
Don't concern troll me. Don't faux concern me, Tyrus.
Listen. I want you at your best. I'm throwing a Will Cain watch party this weekend for Fox and Friend Weekend. I am excited. I'm going to start the barbecue early. Like, it's going to be a whole thing. Listen, I know you made some bold predictions, and I said that, the inside game was going to be an issue, and hopefully that young rookie will learn to think before he speaks, because he definitely didn't figure them out. But, no, you know what? I think the series comes down to this. Karma is a bitch. And Kyrie Irving had karma to pay. And I think had the Mavericks played any other team in the East, Luka and Kyrie were enough. And I'm just putting that out there. But
100%.
Kyrie not
let me
only
give you-
abandoned those young men, there was some questions that whether he could have played or not have played in that Game 7 with LeBron and how he carried himself afterwards. Those guys don't forget because they looked up to him, and he kind of like just, and he kind of like Big Brother left home on really bad circumstances, and the little brothers grew up, and when he came back,
Hold on.
They just went.
I don't want you to turn this into a soap opera, because here's the thing.
It's always
I'm going to
better
give you
when
some
it's a
rose
soap
petals.
opera.
I know, but I'm going to give you the more boring truth. It's also going to be rose petals. I don't care. Kyrie didn't show up for these finals. That's a fact. Luka wasn't very good in these finals. That's a fact. But here's the truth. It's because the Celtics were so good. You play incredible defense, and everybody can hit a three, as you and I talked about before this series. And every time I'm looking up, Tyrus, I'm like, oh, my God, there's another guy half a step open, nailing a three. Mavericks guys, by the way, half a court open, can't hit a three. So I think here's the bottom line. You play that series 10 times, the Celtics win it 10 times. Now, maybe the Mavericks
Kyrie's
beat
never
the
winning a
Pacers
game
or the
in
Bucks.
Yeah, Kyrie's never going to win.
Maybe
a
that's
game
the soap
in
opera
Boston
story. But
as long as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's there, Kyrie's never winning a game in Boston. That's just you forget the fact of just wanting the game. To go up against the guy that walked out on you is even bigger. But there was a lot of heroes in that series. The biggest thing I think is Luka's got to look at being in shape, because the Celtics did exactly. Brown's like, we're just going to make him work every play, and then he won't have any gas in the fourth quarter.
I saw that.
And that was kind of the way it went, because I think their mindset was, let him get his 35. Let's say Kyrie gets 30. Who's going to get the rest? And it wasn't Washington. Damn sure weren't Jones. Like, just the other guys who really, although I thought Exum played well, I was surprised that they didn't go to Hardaway sooner. I mean, that was a kind of a big thing.
It's too little.
I think the size.
You got Drew Holiday. I mean, you've got too many dudes. And by the way, one more basketball point. I actually take hope. I take hope from the Celtics. I do think there's a thing in the NBA that you've got to go through the hard times to get to the good times. You've got to suffer, and you guys definitely did. This was a long project in the making for Tatum and Brown and for the Celtics. And I think Luka has to go through this to become a champion.
Because when they traded Marcus Smart away, I was furious. I mean, I was like this, and this was before we got the Trailblazers Christmas gift of Drew Holiday. I was, I was like, what are we doing? Because the only guy with ice in his veins at clutch time was Marcus Smart and Derek White. It was, Brown showed signs of it his first year in the league. He had a big shot against Utah to go ahead. But Tatum and Brown in the playoffs and those clutch moments when it really matters have had some issues. So it wasn't, and Brown just became that guy this year. So, and also helped.
What, Tyrus?
And everyone else around.
What am I wearing?
Oh, it's fabulous.
I have a Celtics jersey, or I have do you have a shirt for me, and I Love Tyrus shirt? What am I wearing on Fox and Friends?
I'm going to swing by on Friday. I believe that's your sports edition
okay.
of your podcast. He's going to just pop my head in just to check on you. Because I've been there, Golden State. I had to listen to texts from Snoop, who was the world's biggest bandwagon fan. You don't go from Lakers to
front runner
or Steelers
right.
to Ravens. So I question his integrity with sports sometimes, and I think I can do that.
Thank you.
But I took it on the chin, and you know what? You didn't duck anybody, man. I will bet with you anytime, especially if it's Mavericks and the Boston. But hey, the Red Sox made a statement this weekend. Everybody's putting their big boy pants on in Boston, so maybe we have to have another bet when the Rangers play the Red Sox. I don't know. Have some fun.
13, I counted it up, 13 titles in 24 years between the Bruins and the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Patriots. I mean, you guys you're more often celebrating a championship than you are not.
Growing up as a Red Sox fan,
ridiculous run
with the Stanley not covering home plate, having to deal with just being murdered by the Yankees on a consistent basis. As a child, the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl, and I hadn't even quite understood what football was yet, but I knew a murder when I saw one. So the Antoine Walker era, we've had a lot. We just got used to always kind of being there and finding a way to. You thought the Tom Brady miracle happened. So we've been very lucky as Boston fans. We really can't complain.
Well, no one feels happy for you now. Yeah, exactly. No one feels happy.
And
all right, I got to run.
I'm looking for bandwagon Celtic fans. You're not welcome. Stay out. The water's not.
I might have one in the. I can find one real easily.
Yeah.
Have fun with your Fox and Friends weekend.
One thing, if I could say one thing to the Mavericks Nation, get with Luka, and it's called CrossFit. Check it out, Luka. And with that,
have fun at your Fox and Friends weekend watching party. There, Tyrus, who I have to pay my bet this weekend. Solid guy. Let's see. Can I find a Celtics bandwagon fan? I don't know.
Wow.
Oh, right there.
Wow.
Oh,
There's
right
one
there.
right on the screen.
In my control room.
It doesn't. That doesn't expire
Who do you think's
after.
a bigger?
Doesn't expire after 17 years. That's.
Who do you think bigger front runner? James, young establishment James, or Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg. At least mine made sense. Snoop Dogg's changing past the age of 40.
It's close.
It's you pick a team at 8 and you stick with it for life. You pick a team at 8 and you stick with it for life.
Patriots,
Snoop's
Celtics,
all over the place.
Yankees. Interesting set of choices there. I guess
it's up on a tee.
You know
for
what?
You.
Had you picked the Red Sox,
I would have been fine.
Had you picked the Red Sox, you would have had more championships in your lifetime, right?
By 3, yeah.
Yeah, you weren't even born for the Yankees '90s run.
Very technically speaking, but not in the talking stages yet.
No, you weren't there.
Unaware.
Weren't there. All right, congratulations, Tyrus. Congratulations, I guess, young establishment James. Let's get back into some serious issues here on, should you take your Apple phone and lock it up in a Faraday locker? Whatever that is. That's what Elon Musk says. He is not happy about the partnership between OpenAI and Apple. And that's next on The Will Cain Show.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Ben Domenech, Fox News contributor and editor of the Transom.com daily newsletter, and I'm inviting you to join a conversation every week with the smartest thinkers out there about the issues Americans face and where we're going as a nation. This show will feature deep dive interviews with newsmakers and some of your favorite Fox News analysts. I hope you'll join me as we dive into the fray. It's the Ben Domenech Podcast.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you download podcasts. Pete Hegseth's eye-opening new book, The War on Warriors.
The army I fought for has gone woke, and it's time to fix that.
The veteran and Fox and Friends weekend host exposes the problems in today's military.
How a far-left ideology has infiltrated the system and is putting our entire country at risk.
With critical insight into the changes that need to happen in the Pentagon and America before it's too late. The War on Warriors by best-selling author Pete Hegseth. Order now at foxnewsbooks.com. From the Fox News Podcast Network.
I'm Emily Campagno, and this is the Fox True Crime Podcast.
And I had nothing to do with her disappearance, but people still accuse me of it.
I sit down with the people who lived the nightmares.
I was in shock. I was just devastated.
The investigators who tirelessly worked on the case.
I feel for their families, and I really hope that they can catch this guy.
Bringing you closer to the story than you ever thought possible.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're thinking about all the different ways I need to use artificial intelligence. Is it going to get easier with OpenAI's potential partnership with Apple? It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, the Fox News YouTube channel, on terrestrial radio across this great U.S. of A. But always on demand by subscribing at Apple or Spotify or on YouTube. Reid Blackman is the author of Ethical Machines. He's also the founder and CEO of Virtue, which is an AI ethical risk consultancy. And he joins us now on the Will Cain Show. Hey, is OpenAI ethical, Reid?
Probably not. I mean, like, closed doors, but it doesn't look great from the outside, that's for sure.
Well, is there an ethical artificial intelligence?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so look, if you're asking about a company and its practices, there's the product that they make, then there's the practices that they have. So is the product ethical? Plausibly. Does it? I mean, there's problems with it. So there's talk about like it's a black box. We don't know how it operates. That raises some ethical red flags. It can be biased in various ways, politically and otherwise, that are not great. So that's a problem with the product. Then there's the privacy practices of OpenAI. That's totally opaque. So where does this data go? What do they use it for? How do they use it? How do they collect the data in the first place to train their AI? That's opaque. So there's one question about their practices, which they could be more transparent than they are. And then there's questions about how ethical is the product itself.
Well, Reid, help me understand the market for just one moment. Okay.
Yeah.
You got Grok, which is Twitter's AI. Google has an AI. There's OpenAI. Apple actually says they have a different AI of their own. There's a lot of different AIs. So I want you to give me an analogy. Like, is this year 1 or 2 of the social media? Like, are we in the MySpace phase of social media? Or maybe it's software, or maybe even the internet browsers, where, who was the first big one? Wasn't it, it was like Netscape,
was
maybe,
Netscape the first one?
I think, I remember using Netscape and then Safari, and I still use Safari because it's loaded on Apple, by the way.
Sure, yeah.
But, where are we in that stage? Because I think, don't you guess that the situation is similar to all of those other examples we just gave? Whether or not it's browsers or software or social media companies, there will be a consolidation and a domination by 1, 2, or 3 companies.
There already is that consolidation for the most part. I mean, you've got, like you said, there's the one you mentioned. There's also Anthropic. There's, there's Meta has their own Llama 2. I don't know what they are now. But there's already a consolidation. One thing that makes it very different from the internet browser age is that it's phenomenally expensive to make these things. And we're talking, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to create these things. The processing power, the data that needs to be stored, the data that needs to be ripped off the internet is an extremely expensive proposition. So while you could have a couple of kids, out of Stanford in a garage pulling together a new internet browser, no big deal. Creating an LLM that can compete with the likes of an OpenAI, that's not on the table. That's not possible.
So is OpenAI already won, Reid? Are they Microsoft?
I mean, they're embedded in Microsoft. So Microsoft is a major
Right.
investor in OpenAI and is embedded in Microsoft's like Office 365. ChatGPT is embedded in all that. They haven't won yet. I mean, there's a really interesting move that they're doing now with Apple, right? So Apple just had their developer conference where they announced that now there's Apple Intelligence, which is really just Apple's partnership with OpenAI. But as the reporting goes, there's no money exchanging hands, which is kind of curious. So apparently OpenAI is still willing to do things for the sake of exposure. And you don't do that, I don't think, if you've already made it, if it's already sort of said and done that you're the winner.
But so Elon Musk is extremely upset about this idea that OpenAI is going to be in this partnership with Apple. Now, he's making all the ethical arguments that we started this conversation with about privacy and so forth. But obviously, he's a competitor as well with OpenAI. So what is his real concern here? Is his concern that you get in, like I made the mention a moment ago of, Safari's just sitting there. You have to download, your Google browser, whatever it may be. Safari's sitting there on your Apple device, and that gives it a real piece of market share, right? So I assume this gives OpenAI a huge piece of market share, and that's got to upset Elon Musk.
I suspect that it's less that he's concerned about the market and more that he just bears a grudge against OpenAI. He was one of the founders of OpenAI, and then there was big infighting, etc. He decided to leave completely. So I suspect that he just has a grudge, justified or not, against Sam Altman and OpenAI. So it doesn't surprise me that he would come out and saying this is no good. The other thing is that it's not clear how OpenAI or how ChatGPT is going to integrate with Apple devices. It's not, as far as we know, going to be like your Safari app that you just find on your iPhone, because it's still a separate entity. You have to, it's not clear yet, but it's like you've got to go to Safari, go to OpenAI.com or whatever it is, and then subscribe for $20 a month. So it's not as seamlessly integrated as a browser. It's more akin to like having Netflix on your phone, right? Where you got to go to Netflix.com, create an account, pay them their monthly fee, and then you can access it through your iPhone. It's more like that. So there's extra steps. It's not like your browser. So again, they're getting exposure, they're getting access to Apple's audience, which is sizable, but it's not that, just not as seamless as your browser. So it's not that market share yet.
Elon Musk's threat is that maybe I should just make a phone. Maybe I should compete with Apple. You kind of referenced it a minute ago, but the thing about technology, we've always said, the kid in the garage can come in and disrupt. And we always talk about, Facebook to MySpace. And we talk about not early adopters, but early pioneers in tech space and how they're not always the winners. And the idea is, technology is easy to disrupt. And so no one's ever safe at the top. But I'm curious if that's true still, as you point out. It's probably not going to be true because of the resources needed to create a new artificial intelligence. But even on the phone, I wonder how safe is Apple with the phone? Like everybody has an Apple phone. I know there's the Samsung phones out there. But do you think this is an unassailable market position at this point for Apple? There's a reason Elon Musk is upset as well about the partnership between the two of them. It's because this thing, Apple's iPhone, is so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that could ship it. First of all, the Android phone has a good piece of the market. So it's not like Apple really dominates everything. It's the most expensive phone out there, as far as I know, or on average, it's the most expensive phone. So that's one issue. Another issue is that they haven't done much lately with the phone. There hasn't been any interesting innovation with the phone. They just keep slapping on more lenses for the camera and hoping that's going to do it. But sales have slowed for Apple iPhone because they haven't had interesting innovation in a while. I still have the iPhone 12. Why should I get a bigger one? Why should I get another one? It's not clear why. So they're not doing anything interesting or innovative with their phones. Not lately. Allegedly, their new Apple Intelligence, their version of AI, is supposed to help. It's supposed to really be a way of upgrading the phone because it's going to upgrade Siri. So you can sort of talk to your apps and then integrate them more as saying, hey, I got to go drive to I got to go drive to my friend's house in California tomorrow. It's a 4-hour drive. What's traffic going to be like and what's the weather going to be like? And it's supposed to understand all that, search all your weather app, your Google Maps, whatever it is, and then give you an answer. So that might be some kind of way of capturing customers. But the truth is that Apple showed a very controlled demo so far. We haven't seen it in the hands of live users, so we don't actually know if it's going to be any good. If it's as impressive as they want it to be, yeah, it's going to keep people with the iPhone. If it's not, people will continue to leave the iPhone, just not buy new ones until they really have to.
So last thing on this AI, I was literally coming into this conversation. I have this feeling. I know this. I need to be using AI, and I know already the ways in which we could use it. What I talk about on this show could be turned into, text monologue, articles. There's just so many different things I could be doing. What are you laughing about when I say that? What are you laughing about when I say I know I need to use AI?
Everyone feels that way. I think it's mostly BS. Right? You don't have to. It's like,
really,
it's cool. It's shiny. It's useful in some contexts, but and I think sort of having the attitude of, hey, let me check this out and see what I can use it for. That makes sense. But the feeling that you have to do it or you're missing out, that just strikes me as silly. There's tons of influencers online saying, oh, look at these amazing things. I'm saving, 40 hours a day out of 24. It's done the impossible. I think that they're just trying to bump up their followers. They're probably using a little bit. It's helpful. Don't get me wrong, it can be helpful. But the idea that it's at this point anyway, life-changing for how people operate, whatever, I don't think that's true. Yeah, if you're a social media person, it's going to help you draft some posts first. Like, I've given it copies of my book. I've given it copies of my articles. And I say, hey, write me some LinkedIn posts. They're okay, but it's still kind of a pain. I still have to go edit it. It's not my voice. It's not quite right. It's not really saying the thing I wanted to say. So it helps. People sometimes compare it to like a pretty smart intern straight out of college that doesn't really know anything. Yeah, they're good. But they're good. Hire them, sure, use them, but don't expect it to be like, oh my God, my job can be done for me now. They're college interns.
Well, here's the most interesting conversation I had about AI. And it was just a guy connected to, Silicon Valley and all that. And you talked about it a minute ago, the power needs. That was the most interesting he made aware to me. He's like, the demands on the processing power of AI are massive. He's like, we're not talking about these warehouses full of servers. No, we're talking about like farms that are necessary for the computing power to continue to operate the growth of this artificial intelligence. And then he was talking beyond that. He was like, think about the power needs to run all that computing. He's like, you're going to put such a demand on the power system. And it's just like, we need everything, man. We need nuclear. We need power like tomorrow. Yeah. And I don't want to hear anything about, every bit of energy that we can get, we're going to need it because this thing sounds like it's going to be taxing the entire system.
It does. It taxes the entire system. It's extremely expensive. It uses the energy of small countries, And part of the problem is that since it's so accessible, and people are asking stupid things, especially when it first came out, write me a poem about Donald Trump in the style of, Shakespeare or whatever, just stupid things. And all of those things added up cost a tremendous amount of energy. And then we're just at the beginning now where large companies are beginning to integrate it, right? So OpenAI has a partnership with Microsoft to put it in Office 365. Microsoft is obviously very intent on selling Office 365 powered by ChatGPT to all of their enterprise customers. So we're talking about, hundreds of thousands, ultimately millions, tens of millions of people using it. So we're at the very beginning of that usage. And as long as that climb continues and works its way increasingly into business, and it's still at the very beginning, the energy consumption is bananas.
Ethical Machines is his book. Virtue is his company. He's CEO and founder of the Ethical Risk Consultancy for AI. You can find him on X, Reid Blackman, R-E-I-D Blackman, here on the Will Cain Show. Always good to have you, Reid. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Always good to chat.
All right. There he goes. All right. That's going to do it for me today. Tune in to Fox and Friends this weekend. Apparently, I'm going to have some debts to pay. You can be there Saturday and or Sunday. That's going to do it for me today. I will see you again next time.